This is the story of Mitt Romney, a human being who built that. George W. Romney was a wealthy auto executive and future Michigan governor. But being born his son was anything but luck. Willard Mitt Romney won the coveted position only by outcompeting thousands of less motivated sperm. And though when he was a teenager, the Romney family was for a time forced to take shelter in public housing, young Mitt refused on principle to take taxpayer money for his schooling, instead convincing a local businessman to invest in his future. And then, Vietnam. Romney volunteered to serve in France, a Mormon missionary bravely fighting the French people's love of wine. It was a quagmire. Sometimes at night, he feels he's still there.
Bonjour, je m'appelle Mitt Romney.
Back stateside, the handsome, connected young man bucked the odds, gaining admission to Harvard, refusing on principle to pay for school with taxpayer money, but instead with his own hard-earned stock given to him by a local businessman. Her name was Ann Davies, and the moment Mitt saw her, he knew he was totally gonna build that. She was female, the ideal gender for a wife. They wed according to human custom, and then, merging their private sectors, produced 5 male offspring: Tag, Craig, Blig, Marble, and Flapjack. Armed only with Ivy League business and law degrees and the Rolodex of a local businessman, Mitt Romney trailblazed his way to a pioneering new Boston firm, where he learned how to secrete money. From there, it was a series of personal triumphs, from single-handedly saving the 2002 Salt Lake Olympics to electing himself governor of Massachusetts. But there was still one thing left for Mitt Romney to build: a presidency. As the elite East Coast Harvard-educated creator of Romney Care started to run, in the most conservative Republican field in history, Romney realized the terrible truth.
I'm someone who is moderate and that my views are progressive.
I will preserve and protect a woman's right to choose.
We also should keep weapons of unusual lethality from being on the street.
He had built himself the wrong way. It would take a monumental feat of self-reconstruction. 7 years.
I'm firmly pro-life.
$122 billion.
I don't happen to believe that America needs new gun laws.
Round-the-clock operations across 14 time zones until finally...
I was a severely conservative Republican governor.
Mitt Romney had done it. All by himself. Mitt Romney did it all by himself. Mitt Romney, he's a human being, and he built that.
Mitt Romney won big in Florida, cementing his front-runner status. And today, he was on to the morning shows for a quick little victory lap.
By the way, I'm in this race because I care about Americans. I'm not concerned about the very poor. We have a safety net there. If it needs a repair, I'll fix it. I'm not concerned about the very rich. They're doing just fine.
Did you just suggest that you don't need to care about the very rich because they're fine, but also equivalently the very poor because they're okay too? Because you know the reason the net is there is they're not okay. It's like a doctor going, you know, I'm not concerned about the very healthy because they're doing fine. Or the very sick because, you know, morphine. You know what I'm saying? But you know what, maybe I heard it wrong. I could have heard it wrong, you know, obviously. Did that sound weird to anybody else?
You just said, I'm not concerned about the very poor because they have a safety net. And I think there are lots of very poor Americans who are struggling who would say, that sounds odd. Can you explain that?
TV news person just heard what candidate said and then stopped him and made him explain himself. Like a flower blooming in the desert. Quick! Someone dig that up and get it away from CNN before one of their giant holographic monitors falls and crushes it.
Well, you had to finish the sentence, Soledad. I said, I'm not concerned about the very poor that have a safety net, but if it has holes in it, I will repair them.
Right, but it's still a net. And here's the thing about being in a net. Being in a net is bad, whether you're a butterfly or a fish or a trapeze artist or a poor person. If you're in a net, something has gone terribly, terribly wrong. But you know what? I'm sure if Romney gets a chance to clarify his statements, he'll in no way reinforce his aristocratic, patrician, master of the universe-ishness.
The challenge right now, we will hear from the Democrat Party the plight of the poor, and there's no question, it's not good being poor.
I mean, they've got to play tennis on public courts. Ride rental ponies when their butlers tuck them in at night. I can only imagine the thread count on their linens. My point is, we don't need to be concerned about it. For more on Mitt Romney's apparent conflation of the very rich and very poor as constituencies unneeding of attention, we're joined by Jason Jones and John Oliver. Very nice to see you guys. All right. We're going to start here. Team Very Poor, we're going to start with you.
Whoa, nice try there, Stuart. Okay, but we're not going to play your little class warfare experiment.
Yeah, we're not going to let you divide us.
I'm not trying to divide you, but you both represent the two most extreme socioeconomic groups in this country.
No, don't try to pit the 1% against the equivalent 1%.
Actually, I think your numbers might be off. It's your 1%, but this is actually larger. Very poor is like 7%. Poverty is like 15%.
No. We're exactly the same.
No,
we're two peas in a pod.
Bugs in my bed.
I say potato.
And I say, do you actually have a potato? Because I could eat the hell out of a potato right now. I am massively hungry.
But, so both of you are okay with Governor Romney saying that each of these constituencies can be ignored because they're doing okay.
Of course, that's fine.
Absolutely,
No problem.
yes. I mean, I can take all my massive real estate holdings and defer the taxes through 1031 exchanges and minimize my IRS exposure through my Cayman Island subsidiaries and an almost sarcastic amount of trusts. So don't worry about me, I'm fine.
John?
Well, I receive $12 per day from the government. So no worries about me. Pretty comfortable safety nets.
Twinsies!
Right.
Today was the final day in the impeachment trial of Donald Jambalaya Trump. And no big surprise, he was acquitted by the Republican-run Senate, which was never in doubt. Don't boo, vote. You see, impeachment was known. Like, everyone knew where this was going. This was like a movie where you can guess what was going to happen without even watching it. You know, like Titanic. Okay, it's a ship that's going to sink. Or Sophie's Choice. Some lady has to decide which dude she's going to bone. I get it. So with the outcome never in doubt, the only real drama today was whether any Republicans would dare vote against Donald Trump. And it turns out there was one man with binders full of courage.
Republican Senator Mitt Romney emotionally announced on the Senate floor that he will break ranks and vote to convict and remove President Trump.
The president asked a foreign government to investigate his political rival. The president's purpose was personal and political. Accordingly, the president is guilty of an appalling abuse of public trust. With my vote, I will tell my children and their children that I did my duty to the best of my ability, believing that my country expected it of me.
That is shocking. Now that is shocking. Who would have thought that the most badass Republican in the Senate would end up being a Mormon dude named Mitt? And I gotta say, Mitt, you proved everyone wrong. The haters said you were as radical as a glass of skim milk, but they were wrong, Mitt. You're whole milk, my man. That's right, whole milk, fam.
Well, Romney's inability to trounce history's worst president was all scheduled to change this week with a very announced campaign reboot, which, as you know, involves Mr. Romney taking a paperclip and putting it into a hole. I don't want to talk about it. Brings back memories of when I used to have to reboot Rough Men at the Genius Bar. Unfortunately, Romney's reboot was thrown off just a tad.
There are 47% of the people who will vote for the president no matter what, who are dependent upon government, who believe that they're victims, who believe that they're entitled to health care, to food, to housing, to you name it.
Entitled to food, medicine, roofs. That's the Republican candidate for the presidency, seemingly characterizing a broad swath of Americans, which would include veterans, the elderly, the working poor, and much of the middle class, as a bunch of lazy freeloaders. It touched off a firestorm everywhere, but nowhere more acutely than at Romney campaign headquarters, where it triggered something I like to call chaos on Bullshit Mountain. That's that exploding bullshit dust you've all heard so much about. In the 48 hours since the Romney video first gained wide exposure, turd containment crews have been working overtime on Bullshit Mountain.
Keep in mind, it was posted by a left-wing website. Mother Jones, by the way, put this tape out. Mother Jones, the magazine no one reads.
We're hearing word that Jimmy Carter's grandson might have played an instrumental role in getting this video.
Oh my God, your campaign got blown up by Jimmy Carter's grandson? Oh, the Habitat for Humanity! So word one from Bullshit Mountain is, well, yeah, he said it, but you only found out about it because of people that we don't like. What's word two?
Well, the way he said it, it was not the best way of saying something like this. He confused a lot of things. He messed up in that.
It's not the most ideal language to be eavesdropped on.
He wasn't criticizing them. He was saying that the American dream should be open to everybody.
You're looking and hearing the cynical, condescending, plutocratic words he was saying, not the aspirational, optimistic message he, in retrospect, should have been meaning. It's like Romney jazz. It's the words you don't hear. That's the... So, inartful words from a dubious source. This is really just inartful words from a dubious source. Oh, and one other thing.
This is factually accurate, what Romney is saying. If I'm Governor Romney, I run with this all day long.
It was the truth.
He's a boss who says the truth, but the truth often hurts.
I think this will be seen as a win for Romney.
Let me sum up the message from Bullshit Mountain, if I may. This inartfully stated dirty liberal smear is a truthful expression of Mitt Romney's political philosophy, and it is a winner. Romney had some odd moments, like when describing his efforts as governor to recruit more women for cabinet positions.
I went to a number of women's groups and said, can you help us find folks? And they brought us whole binders full of women.
Couple of things. One, the women's group was called MASCAP, and they approached Governor Romney, not the other way around. And two, my guess is they did not refer to what they presented as whole binders full of women, but perhaps referred to it as a well-organized collection of qualified resumes. But hey, binder of women, book of broads, notebook of nipples, whatever. Whatever.
Last night was the State of the Union, Washington, D.C.'s biggest non-orgy event of the year. And I'm going to be honest, I have never watched the State of the Union before because I have a life. So I wasn't looking forward to it, but I'm glad I tuned in because it wasn't nearly as boring as I thought it would be. In fact, it's apparently got a bit of a UFC/junior high cafeteria vibe now. Even before the speech started, things started getting rowdy.
There were some tense moments at last night's State of the Union address. Cameras captured a heated exchange between embattled Congressman George Santos and Senator Mitt Romney.
One lip reader posted this account of how the exchange went down.
You ought to be embarrassed. Yeah, sure. You ought to be embarrassed. I'm well. You ought to be embarrassed. You ought to be embarrassed, son. Sure, you got me? That's your opinion. Yes.
I would like to go on the record tonight and say that I am sexually attracted to Mitt Romney. It's not the first time, and it won't be the last time. I don't even care that he's a Republican or a Mormon. In fact, since he's a Mormon, he'll be open to another wife, and if not, he's a Republican, so he'll be open to having an affair. Problem solved. And yeah, what Romney said doesn't sound too harsh, but remember, it's Mitt Romney. You ought to be embarrassed, son, is the Mormon equivalent of suck my f***ing you pussy-ass bitch.